next to you, Joella. Joella.
As much as I can.
I need a new teacher. My shoulders.
You need to see, you got it?
Yeah, I think so.
She wrote it down. It's going to come to the screening and we're going to see the needs. Because when you open it, has weird.
Really? Do we get to keep these?
Wait, what tournament is that?
It's the Master Series. Master
It's a
500.
big match.
I got the Nadal hat.
I don't know if it's going to help.
Is he your favorite?
No,
Thank you guys for coming today for the RoboCop press conference. We're going to start with Joel Kinnaman, Gary Oldman, Jose Padilla, Michael Keaton, and Abby Cornish. So let's start the questions.
Yeah, one big difference from the original is that there's none of the like funny satirical commercials like in the first one, but you guys have like the great twist with Fox and all that with Sam Jackson. So I was just wondering about the decision not to do commercials this time around, and also on a deeper level, I was wondering how you guys address a lot of hot button issues aside from security, like where things stand with the battle over medical technology and you know, how long people should be kept alive and free will, things like that. I was just wondering, like, about the thought process that went into making it a little deeper than the first one in those regards also.
Who should answer that?
You.
Damn, I shouldn't have asked. So listen, the first RoboCop, but Verhoeven's film, already it had a great idea in it, the way I see it, which is the connection between the automation of violence and fascism. And you can think about this connection in several ways. One way to think about it is consider Vietnam, right? America pulled out of Vietnam because there was movements at home due to the fact that soldiers were dying there. If you take away the soldiers and they put robots there, what happens? Same thing goes for Iraq. In law enforcement, if you replace a soldier with a machine, you take away the possibility of the soldier or the policeman to not do something the state asks of him. He may think it's, you know, unethical to do it. A machine doesn't have that critical perspective. And so if you think about the first movie, you had Alex Murphy fighting against the directives, right, inside his head. So that character embodies this idea that you have to dehumanize the perpetrator of violence in order to have fascism. Right now, we are getting very close to having robots replacing soldiers. Very close to we are already seeing drones flying abroad, and so we wanted to make this idea current. Now, in order to bring the movie to the president to talk about what's going to happen, every country will have soon to decide whether they're going to want to have robots for law enforcement or not. The UN is going to have to pass legislation about whether what's going to be allowed or not in war as far as machines go. And if you, by a coincidence on the Telegraph today, there's an article about American Army is trying to replace soldiers with robots. It's almost like out of a movie. It's going to happen. Now, we set up this movie in a place in time where we said America already decided not to allow robots for law enforcement. And this corporation, sellers, wants to sell robots there. And so he has to create a way to circumvent the law. And the only way to do it is to put a drone out there, but to say that this drone is a man, put a man inside the machine. Once you do that, you create a character that's a little bit different than Verhoeven's character. Because, you know, you need to have a man. They're selling that this machine is a man. And so Alex Murphy, he wakes up totally conscious. He has his memories. He's a man, and he finds out he's a robot. Once you do that, you can start to talk about philosophical issues, like you mentioned, stuff like what is it that defines you as a man? Is it your brain? Is it your body? Is it because your brain runs a certain software that makes you a man? What is it that, so then the movie opens up to all the philosophical questions, like you said. So it all boils down to the premise of the movie. And the premise, and if you develop this movie in a coherent way, you necessarily have to tackle those issues. You know, the political issues that have to do with the use of drones are very close to the philosophical issues that have to do with what is it a drone and what is it a human. They are the same. And like if you look at the literature in philosophy, you're going to see that they are discussed in the same books, actually. As to the Samuel Jackson character, Pat Novak, and why we replaced the commercials with the media, I think it's because the media became like the commercials in the real world. And so, you know, we thought it was a good thing to have a little bit of fun with the crazy right-wing, mogul, Rush Limbaugh guys. Everybody has. I mean, we have those in Brazil, and I'm sure there are those in France, in England, in Germany, and, you know, I have to say personally I've had it a little bit with them, so why not, you know, make a little fun.
Well, thanks for coming. That about does it.
I take the question seriously. That's a mistake.
But
I just figured out what the movie's about.
I don't see a great difference between someone sending a robot or a drone to bomb people and controlling it on a PlayStation.
Yeah.
Right, from another country, as thousands of miles away, as opposed to someone in an aeroplane who is thousands of feet away, releasing a bomb.
Yeah, the difference for me.
Yeah.
We're having a debate here. Just wait for a second. We'll open up for questions later. I know. I'm kidding. The difference is this: if you have a guy piloting a plane, and let's say he throws a bomb in Pakistan and kills an innocent kid by mistake, you can, in principle, judge the person. He made a mistake or not. You can even punish the person and put the person in jail and so on.
Well, you question the government. You don't question the person.
Yeah, whomever did it, right? But you can question someone. Now, if you have an autonomous robot that's not being piloted, it's a software that's running a program and it's deciding by itself whether to release the bomb or not, liability becomes fuzzy. So who is to blame? Is it the guy who deployed the robot? Is it the guy who built the robot? Is it the guy who did the software, who maybe failed and put it inside the robot? How many companies did the same software? I mean, it's an issue that's debated in philosophy. Law has to change to cope with technology. We don't have a legal apparatus to deal with that yet. That's the difference. The difference is, yeah.
Well, how different Lone Survivor would be if it was a robot not worrying about CNN.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, my question is for Joel Kinnaman. First of all, terrific performance, really enjoyed it. I'm wondering if you can, I know every role presents different challenges. I'm just wondering if you can talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you faced in this role, and in particular, dealing with the costume and what all that entailed.
Yeah, first of all, it was a bit of a challenge to put on this suit. The first time I put it on, we were out in Pasadena. It was a hot day in LA. It took like 45 minutes 1 hour and 45 minutes to put it on, and it was so uncomfortable. It was digging in everywhere. It was pressing down on my shoulders, and I was just sweating like a pig. And after 20 minutes, I said, like, I gotta get out of this. But then I was thinking to myself, it was a daunting idea that I was going to have to wear this for 14 hours a day, 6 days a week for 5 months. But actually the suit became one of the first seeds of that led my imagination into the vulnerability that Alex Murphy felt after he became RoboCop. And it was an interesting contrast because he's got this body that is so powerful, but all of a sudden he feels very uncomfortable, and he's amputated from his throat down. He doesn't know who he is anymore, and like my little level of uncomfortability sort of led me to think of what Alex would have felt times 1,000. So it was interesting. I was surprised to think that this suit that should make me feel so powerful actually made me feel vulnerable, and so that was interesting. What was the second part of your question?
Just bringing your character.
Oh, and then the difficulty that it presented, many of the most emotionally demanding scenes, I had to be completely still, and especially in the scenes when I wake up and when Dr. Norton reveals what's left of me. And usually, I think if you all think back to the moments when you've gone through the most pain in your life or the most severe anxiety, your body is very much involved in that. Your body is expressing those emotions. So when we as actors try to access those feelings, the body is a great tool to use, and you clench your stomach or you do something physical, and that sort of helps your emotions along the way. And in this instance, I didn't have that luxury, so it was a little higher level of difficulty. But what helped me out was during most of these scenes, I could look into the truthful eyes of Mr. Oldman. So that would always. So that helped me out. But that was one of the difficulties with wearing the suit. And
Michael. Could you talk a little bit about finding your character? Was there any CEOs that you sort of drew from? And the second question is, having gone through a job where you had to work with just only a small part of your face showing, did you enjoy having any conversations about the limitations or the freeingness of doing something like that?
I'll answer the second part first. Yeah, we had a conversation about 11 minutes ago, actually, but we did, and I kind of saved it for him. I mean, I think I mentioned it to him once, but I find talking about acting often is not very interesting and kind of very self-involved. So I'll blow through this really quickly. So without making a big deal about it, he's really a fine actor. This cast is so good, and if you've seen the movie, and it really pays off. Every scene, you see it with her, you actually feel something. Usually in movies, you don't feel the real emotion, but this cast is so good at every level. And Joel's job is particularly difficult because what I was saying was people don't know how hard that is to do what you need to do, because your natural instinct or your unnatural instinct might be to say, let's face it, I'm in this suit that out of context is kind of ridiculous, you know what I mean? So your inclination or your desperation might make you want to kind of go out and what he didn't do was that. What he did do was kind of sucked back and went kind of inside, and he makes these unbelievable transitions too. I noticed from he's human, then he's robot, then he's robot and human, and that's really, really hard to do when you're wearing a big black suit. And I was really knocked out by it. I mean, I was knocked out by the movie, and I hadn't seen it until about a week ago or so. But I kept watching him in it, and it's really extraordinary what he did. He probably won't get the credit for degree of difficulty that was required. And what I didn't hear him speak about this before, but in a way the suit becomes your. A long time ago when they were asking me when I did the first Batman, I made a joke, but I was actually serious. I just worked the suit, man. I let that suit go to work for me. And that's kind of what you have to do. What happened? I'm very claustrophobic, and we didn't know that the suit was even going to work at all until literally, I think, hours before we were about to start shooting the suit. We shot a lot of the Bruce Wayne stuff, which was the key, by the way. And that was the key. I never worried about the Batman thing. Was like the way in was Bruce Wayne. That was always it for me. That was it. The Batman thing was, I didn't know what I was going to do with that. But so when we got in it, I went, oh, I'm in trouble, man. I got to really face this thing, because you couldn't get out of it. The second one you could kind of get out of it. This thing was like wrapped. In fact, it didn't totally work, because one of the first shots. This whole thing, does anybody care about this, by the way? Or am I just shy? Okay. This whole thing, it came out of, I mean, I'll take some credit for it, but really it was practical. This whole thing like this really came out of the first time I had to react to something and this thing stuck to my face and somebody says something to Batman, I go like this and the whole thing goes big fucking hole here. I go, Batman, nigga. So I go, well, I got to get around that because we got to shoot this son of a bitch. So I go like this. And then you know what, Tim? He moves like this. That's not so I'm very, very claustrophobic and I get in this thing and they actually used one of those out of pine wood, one of those old boards that they put you on if you're playing a night, a leaning board. Yes, and you couldn't. I drink a lot of coffee. I eat a ton of vitamins. I drink a lot of water. I could do none of that because I couldn't get out of it to go to the bathroom. So they put me in this thing, and inside, honestly, I started having literally panic attacks. You know, people call them panic attacks, and I had a little bit of history with that anyway. So I really did. So I thought, I don't know how I'm going to do this, man. I'm feeling really, really scared. And then it hit me, just what he said. I went, oh, this is perfect. This is perfect. I mean, it is like designed for this kind of really unusual dude. This, you know, the Bruce Wayne guy, the guy who has this other personality that's really dark and really alone and really kind of depressed. This is it. You just take all that stuff that suit, all that stuff that suit was giving me, and I said, oh, I got it. I know exactly how to do this now. So it's odd how those things happen to actors. You know, like a thing you think, I have no idea how to do this. Something will happen often in your life or something. I think all these guys will tell you that comes up and you just kind of get it. I don't know how you get it, but actors are kind of pretty extraordinary in that regard. I think it's fear is what happens.
I had all of that in The Dark Knight and I wasn't wearing the suit.
You can believe me when I did.
Forget everything I just said.
I mean, I got no sympathy from Michael Keaton when I was complaining about my suit. He was like, shut the fuck up. You got it easy. They had to glue my suit on.
They have air conditioning in it.
Well, the great thing about having been in a lot of makeup and stuff like that is that when you're working with someone who's in it and you've been there and done it, but you're not in it anymore, you just you feel so good.
You feel so good. You feel so great.
Yeah. And you say things like, "Are you hot in that?"
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know. I enjoyed every minute watching him. I just sit there in my little suit and watch him.
There's a lot of gloating. Yeah, there's a lot of gloating.
Joel, did you have to adopt any kind of physical regimen either to endure the suit or to do the action choreography? And did they give you any aspect of the suit to take home as a souvenir for your tour of duty in it?
I did get the guns that I have in a frame at home. So I was very happy about that. I had to, you know, after putting on the suit for the first time and I felt how taxing that was going to be, I realized I was going to have to be in good shape and it wasn't going to be much time to train while I was shooting because it was going to be long days. So, you know, just getting in good shape. But then also because of how we were discussing the programming or the software behind RoboCop's movement patterns when he was in a battle situation. And our idea of that was that it would be more of special forces. So, and I was, you know, hoping to do the most of those movement scenes. So I trained with Swedish Special Forces for 3 weeks. It was some guys that I trained with previously for other projects. And then I also trained with the LA SWAT team.
My question, Gary, is for you. I wanted to ask you, your character, Norton, kind of reminds me of Dr. Frankenstein, but only with a conscience. So I was just wondering for you, how did you get into that character, and did you think of him or any other kind of mad scientist type of people while you were preparing for that role?
Yeah, I mean, well, it has echoes of the, it is the sort of Frankenstein sort of monster, and it's an unusual relationship because it's a sort of patient doctor, then the sort of monster scientist. Then it's like a father-son relationship. They're like friends, and then it becomes even sort of like a father-son. I think that's maybe possibly there was a seed of the idea there in the original. because it is a very Frankenstein, you know, the sort of man tinkering around in God's tool shed. You know, it has that. But in terms of character, it was a terrific script to start with, and then we had the luxury of rehearsal, because Jose wanted rehearsal, which is unheard of really in movie making, and so we, over 2 weeks, I think, made the script better. But character is really, if it's good writing, it's on the page. All the clues to the character. I often think that if you're breaking a sweat and if you're working too hard for something, then that's always a problem with if you're trying to make the writing work. Totally. And it's like your map, and there's all the signs in the material of finding. It's that old Stella Adler thing of reading out, not reading in. You know, I didn't bring my own baggage to it. You know, you use your imagination and what is there on the page. So I didn't really look outside of the script very much. And I mean, as far as these bionic engineers and neurosurgery, I mean, I Google, you know, and that's the great thing about Google is that you type in neurosurgery, and somehow you end up with Peter Sellers. Or you're watching Frank Sinatra by the end of it. You know what I mean? Those searches. But yeah, it was Google, great resource.
Hi all. I'd like to preface this by saying I'm one of the people, I'm sure I'm not alone, that was a little worried about seeing this remakes of a great film, but I really love the movie. Great job from everyone. My question. This film has a special place in pop culture and cinema, the original film, and in cinema history. Could you give me your initial thoughts, the actors specifically, when you first heard about the film, first heard you were going to get a part? Were there any second thoughts at all about taking part in this?
Well, when I first heard, I got a call from my agents, and they told me that there was a remake of RoboCop being made, and my initial reaction was that I might see that in the movie theaters. I don't think it's a great fit for me, at least where I was at the time. But then I found out that Jose Padilla was going to direct it, and I'd seen his documentary Bus 174 and his 2 Elite Squad movies, and that completely changed my perspective of what the possibilities of a remake could be. Because there's a lot of wrong reasons why you would make a remake, but there are some good ones. And when I heard that Jose was going to direct it, I was pretty certain that it was going to be one of the good ones. And then I sat down with Jose, and he told me the vision of the story that he wanted to tell by using the concept of RoboCop. And I thought it was a brilliant idea. And it brought me back to the sort of, you know, I think it's human nature in many ways that we retell our favorite stories. In the theater, we do that all the time. I've seen 4 different Hamlets. Every one has given me something different. And in this case, it feels like in 1987, when this film was made, it was a futuristic vision that felt very much like fantasy. It was an incredible film. But in 2013, the technology has had an exponential curve, and we're so far into the future that I think in 1987 we couldn't imagine where we would be right now. And for us, where society has come today, the concept of RoboCop really made sense to revisit, because there were so many. It was one of those great opportunities where you could meld a big scale, exciting action movie, but at the same time get the opportunity to talk about some very interesting philosophical and political questions.
Yeah, I'd like to say something about it. RoboCop for me was actually a very nostalgic film from my childhood. I grew up with brothers, and so we had it on VHS, and we watched that VHS till it shredded itself and it couldn't be watched anymore. So when I heard that RoboCop was being remade, I instantly was interested. And then I heard Jose Padilla was directing it. I had a Jose Padilla movie marathon night where I watched Elite Squad 1, Elite Squad 2, Bus 174, and emailed you after that.
Yeah, nobody has ever done that before. Don't attempt it. It's very dangerous. Don't do it at home.
It was like it was an amazing night. Like I was still up and the sun came up by the time I finished my Jose Padilla movie marathon, and I thought this is an incredibly talented director who it would be an honor to work with. And then I heard Gary Oldman, who I've respected and admired forever, Michael Keaton, and then I heard of Joel Kinnaman's playing RoboCop, and I thought that was great casting, and Samuel L. Jackson. And then, to be honest, this film for me is the most fun I've ever had on a film, and I've learnt the most. I was really lucky in regards to the fact that I had time off, because I'd sort of fly back and forth. But there was moments on set where I'd wrap, and rather than go back to the hotel, I'd sit and stay on set. And Jose was really lovely because he'd let me sit behind the monitors. And I learnt a lot watching him direct. And Gary and Michael Keaton were also lovely. They let me hang around and watch them do a scene together too. So for me, it was a massive learning curve, and was really enjoyable. And I think, I think Jose's made an incredible film with RoboCop. I think it's a great remake. I think it holds its own.
I decided to do it, then I heard Jose was going to direct it, and I thought, oh, shoot, I made a huge mistake. But it was too late. I had to do it.
Yeah, then he was stuck, you know what I mean? To work with this cast, and Samuel Jackson who went here, and other actors, Jackie O'Healy is amazing. Yeah, Jennifer Hill is great. I mean, there's so many, Michael Kay, and so many great actors in this movie.
And Paul Rutan,
JP, who we cast in the last second.
Child.
I mean, we went through, 200 kids, and I couldn't find, a kid that would be, would match them, and would also be a great actor. And JP came in the last minute when we were doing the rehearsals. He came on, they did a scene. Yeah. As soon as the scene was over, I looked at it and I said, it's JP. But before I could say anything, Abby turned to me and it's him. Yeah, and I go like, okay.
But you know what's interesting though? As soon as JP walked into the room, I knew he was the one. I just knew. I looked at this kid and I just knew. And then he did the scene and he killed it. Like, he's an amazing actor. John Paul Rutan is an amazing actor. And then I sort of walked him out. Joel and I walked him out to his mum, and I kind of winked at his mum and went back in, and I was like, Jose, and like Jose was like,
we found
thumbs
the
up,
kid at the last moment. But the thing that Gary said something that I want to add to it. I mean, the fact that we got 2 weeks of rehearsal, and the fact that usually you don't get that. It's very, very important in filmmaking. I mean, if you think about you're doing a gigantic movie, it's a lot of investment, and then you don't rehearse it. Doesn't make a lot of sense, right? Because in the rehearsal, several things happen. One is you fine-tune the script. 2 is the director looks at the screenplay from a structural perspective, from whether the story has an internal logic that makes sense, what it means, what it's about, and all that. But you can never look at the story like if Gary is looking at Dr. Norton, he is going to look at that character, and it's going to be deeper than what the director can look at, because the actor has that character to look at only, or mostly. And so when you lock yourself in a room with great actors and you have the time to develop the script, you save so much time on the set, so much money on reshoots, so much, like, rehearsal is really an important thing in filmmaking. And I'm so glad, and I want to thank the studios for backing us up and giving us the time. It was really, really important.
Did you rehearse on Elite Squad movies?
Yeah, for months, actually. Yeah, I mean, because the Brazilian actors are kind of cheaper, so we can afford.
My question is for the director. I was just wondering why you chose the lab in China. Was it like the beginning at the beginning
Right.
decision, or is actually later on?
The lab. Well, the movie talks about, I think there is a classic moment in a scene with Joe and Gary for me when I was shooting. It's when Joe wakes up in the Frank Sinatra scene, and he looks at his hands and he says, "What kind of suit is that?" And Dr. Norton says, "It's not a suit, it's you." This is where we go away from Iron Man, because it's not a suit. Right. It's him. He's become a robot, and he's become a robot because a corporation wanted to make a product. So his body has been transformed, distorted. His psychological reality has been, molded for a purpose that's not his own, and that reminded me of Francis Bacon paintings. Bacon paints. He puts figures in his paintings, and he lights them, isolating them from the rest of the painting, and they're always twisted. And either you can look at it different ways, but either you can think about society deforming those people, or their own psychological reality deforming them. And so I decided to put a Francis Bacon triptych picture behind Sellers when he says, "Let's put a man inside the machine," when he has that idea. And then I gave those paintings to Martin Wiss, the production designer, and I said, "Design the lab after that, design the docking station after Bacon, and let's design the scene where RoboCop is set apart and you have a lung, a hand, and a brain after that Bacon picture." And if you take a look at the picture and you take a look at what the design is, they are really similar. So the whole Chinese lab was designed so we could have the docking station lit like in a Francis Bacon painting. We could isolate RoboCop in the center of the room, leave him alone in there, and we could have that, open up of his body to look like that painting, to look like a Bacon distorting painting. So it's kind of a visual device we used, and I'm glad you asked that, because I've been wanting to say this forever.
And I just thought it was an action movie.
No, you didn't.
My question is for Jose, and actually if Joel could chime in at the end here. We have talked about how the original is a classic to a lot of people, but it's also given pop culture a lot of iconic lines. And you use several in the film, and I was just curious how you chose which ones would work and how many would be too many, and then Joel, what it felt like to actually say them.
Right. Well, first thing that I want to say here is that, sometimes people have the illusion that the director is choosing everything, right? Is choosing the lines, or is choosing. And the way we work, the way I worked in Elite Squad 1 and 2, and the way we worked in this movie, also because we have the rehearsal, I go back to that, is like there's freedom in the set. People can change their dialogues, and we changed dialogues several times. We changed scenes. There's a scene in this movie that I love where Dr. Norton is explaining to Sellers why RoboCop can never be as good as a machine. Just make this work like that. The scene, I can't sell average. I don't know how you did that. But that scene wasn't going to happen. The screenplay had no scene where Gary Oldman was in the same room with Mike. It didn't exist. It was a phone call from China. And we were in the set, and I looked at them and I said, "You guys are here, you Gary Oldman, you Michael Keaton. I'm not going to do a phone call. Just go there, and then we'll figure out how it happened."
Well, it was the one line.
Yeah.
But I'm supposed to be in China.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a problem. How can you be in the room? I know what. Yeah. I've flown over to meet him, and he says to me, "Get your ass back on that plane, back to China."
And so, yeah, get your ass back. And so, a lot of the lines that we have in our movie where just, everybody saw RoboCop over and over again. And sometimes, Jackie O'Healy just said, "I'll buy that for $1." You just said it. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like soccer, and I suppose American football and basketball is the same. If you are the coach and you have great players around you, good things will happen. You know what I mean? And that's kind of how, the lines that went in there. Some of them were in the script, others were not. Others, they just threw it there and they made the movie. And I hope some new lines, like Bad Cop, RoboCop, why is America so robophobic, and will, have the mark. I hope so.
I mean, there was a couple of versions of the script where it was just so many of the old catchphrases were in it, and we all had a discussion that we're remaking, we're doing a reboot of RoboCop, but we're not doing Verhoeven's RoboCop, and Verhoeven is a film director that I have a lot of respect for, and he had a very specific tone, and Jose is a phenomenal film director that has a very specific tone to his films. So I think it would be a disservice to and actually disrespectful to the original to sort of try to keep every line in there. We kept like one or two, maybe three, sort of as a homage to the predecessor that we all love so much. But I think more than that would be a mistake. And it felt pretty cool to say say a couple of those lines.
Hi, my question's for Abby. One of the things I really enjoyed about the film was that the role of Clara Murphy was expanded from the original. So I was wondering if you could speak a little bit to how you approached the role and how it evolved from the original film.
Originally, when the film was pitched to me, there actually wasn't a shooting script. So I took the role without even reading a script. It was pitched to me as in that it was probably going to be around four scenes or 5 scenes. I sent an audition tape and Skype with Jose and then got the role and literally jumped up and down around the house and called Mum and Dad and all my brothers and sisters. It was a very exciting moment for me to be cast in this role. But what was lovely is as the film developed, Clara Murphy developed as well, and the family dynamic and the family relationship became an important element. And I think for Jose, he felt that it was important to ground Alex Murphy, with a home, with a family, with a loving wife and a beautiful son, and for that heart and soul and that drive and passion to not only be, for his journey not to just be about revenge, but also because of his heart and his soul and the pulse and the thing that drives us all in love. And so I kind of got really lucky there in regards to the fact that the role grew as the project went on.
This question is for Joel. Good, I get to end it on a Wire question. There's a lot of diehard Wire fans everywhere, and Michael K. Williams is very iconic. And I've heard you speak about it too. How was it working with Michael K. Williams in this movie as your partner, and can you speak a little bit about his work and how you felt when you found out you were going to be paired with him?
When I heard the idea was raised that Michael was one of the names discussed for the part, I jumped on Jose and I was like, look, if we have an opportunity to get Mike, we got to get him. I mean, he's I've seen the whole series of The Wire twice, and I mean he's a great guy, and we had a lot of fun on set, and there was a couple of times when we had scenes when we were undercover, and I was like, Mike, come on. We were about to go into a house, and I was like, give me a whistle. Give me a whistle. Please, just give me a whistle. And he was like, all right. And then he gave me the whistle, and I was like, I'm in The Wire. I'm in The Wire. So that was a great moment for me. We had a lot of fun, and he brings so much flavor to it and so much heart. So it was a great thing.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot.